you have a child with whom you argue a lot about the time they spend playing video games. Or you have children who are begging you to let them start playing and you want to get ahead of what you think could be a problem down the line. Whatever brings you here, I can help. Takes one to know one. I grew up playing video games, just as your kids are. I actually played a lot of video games, starting in middle school all the way through high school. By the time I went off to college, my habit had escalated to an alarming extent. As my parents will attest, I nearly flunked out of college for playing too often. Unfortunately, I'm not exaggerating. My first year of college, I managed to creep by with less than a 2.0 GPA. My second year wasn't a whole lot better. That was the year I stayed up so late playing video games one night, I slept through my Spanish final. I didn't even try to explain to my professor what happened. I just kind of ghosted him in the whole mortifying situation. My gaming was clearly a problem. My parents tried everything: restrictions and punishment, freedom and support, unconditional love, but nothing was working. After 2 years of college, I flunked out. At that point, we were almost out of options. My parents decided that I needed to get away from my American way of life and move to India, where they had both been born and raised. Even I agreed. It felt drastic, but at that point, drastic was all I had left. I boarded a plane and moved into an ashram. That was a revolutionary change for me. In the ashram, I learned that the thoughts in my mind could be controlled. For years, I had been struggling to overcome my thoughts, my desires. My mind was constantly thinking about gaming. I was reading about it, talking about it, thinking of trying a new strategy when I went to bed. I was getting distracted when I was walking to class. I was watching videos while I was eating. The idea that I could control my thoughts, rather than my thoughts about gaming being in constant control of me, that changed everything. I was so taken by these revelations that I decided I wanted to join the group and become a monk, but my teachers there rebuffed me. Becoming a monk was about renouncing your life, they explained. But I had earned nothing thus far, and therefore I had nothing yet to renounce. You're just escaping, they told me. Go become successful first, they said, and come back when you're ready to renounce that success. So, I decided to go back to school. In the end, I ended up graduating with about a 2.5 GPA, something about that number being written in stone. I am a below average student, and for the rest of my life, I will never be able to change that. Threw gasoline on the inner fire that my time in India had ignited. Within 8 years of flunking out of college, I would start teaching at Harvard Medical School. Controlling your mind. You don't need to send your child to an ashram in India to, quote unquote, cure their gaming addiction. But it might help for you to understand why the mindset shift I underwent there changed me so profoundly. According to yogic shastras, or ancient texts, the thoughts in our mind come from two places: our sensory organs and the memory of our sensory organs. Think about, say, basketball season. If you're surrounded by people talking about last night's game, or you're watching a sports network or listening to sports radio, all these inputs on the subject will populate your mind with thoughts. As your mind gets populated with these thoughts, you will likely engage in talk about basketball even more. We see this working in both positive and negative ways. For example, a child who is constantly exposed to a certain language will use the same language. They're learning. But the same thing is at work in, for example, children who have experienced trauma. When a child is told day after day that they are worthless, they start to internalize those thoughts. That's also learning, but it certainly isn't healthy or productive. The challenge you now face is that game developers are colonizing your child's mind with the games themselves, conversations in discussion forums about them, Twitch streams, YouTube shorts, and endless TikToks of gameplay. It's no surprise that your child is constantly thinking of gaming. They simply don't have the power to resist. Pay attention to the games your child plays. Look at the sounds, the sights, and the colors projected when things happen. For every level they conquer, they get a bright trophy and a satisfying sound. It's so gratifying sensorially. And so the game sinks even further into your child's mind. This is what you're fighting against: a tide of thoughts in your child's mind. But what you need to do is stop fighting. Instead, you need to decolonize their mind. That's why I advocate for small progress at whatever cost. It's not just the gaming you have to restrict. The more you can shut down or slow down the massive amounts of sensory input they get from gaming.